All right, so today we're diving into something kind of different, It's not every day you come across a self-help book written by a 16-year-old,
Yeah, 16.
an entrepreneur, no less.
Wow.
So we're going to be checking out Growing Beyond the Syllabus to see what kind of wisdom this young author has to offer, even if, let's be honest, high school is a distant memory for most of us.
Yeah, I'm actually really curious to hear a young person's take on all of this self-improvement stuff. And we talk about this stuff all the time, but maybe it hits different when it's coming from someone who's like living it right now, you know?
Yeah, totally. That's what I love about these deep dives, finding those unexpected nuggets of wisdom. And this author, he jumps right in, tackling this big idea of perspective, which honestly is way easier said than done, especially in those teenage years. Like,
Yeah.
he really emphasizes forming your own opinions, not just caving to peer pressure,
Hmm.
which, let's be real, that's something we all struggle with at any age, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's like he's saying, hey, don't just take everyone's word for it, even, and maybe especially when you're younger.
Right.
And I love that example he uses, the one about the identical twins. They have like the same genes, same upbringing, but their perspectives are totally different.
It's so
It
true.
really highlights that our individuality, it really goes deeper than we often realize.
Yeah, it's like even when everything on the outside seems the same, there's this inherent uniqueness in each of us. And then he shares the story about how he actually chose a different academic path than all of his friends, and it actually ended up being the best decision for him.
You know, that reminds me of this classic experiment, the Ash conformity experiment. Have you heard of that one?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So they basically had people look at lines,
Right.
right? And judge their lengths. Sounds pretty straightforward,
Yeah, sounds simple enough.
right? But here's the thing. They stuck a participant in a group with a bunch of actors who were all told to give the wrong answer.
Oh, I've heard of this. So did people, like, stick to their guns?
You'd think. But the crazy thing is, the majority of people actually conformed to the group's answer, even though it was clearly wrong. It
Wow.
just shows how powerful social pressure can be.
It really makes you think twice about those times you just went along with something because, well, everyone else was, even if you didn't really agree.
Oh, totally. And you know what? That actually leads perfectly into this really cool concept he introduces. He calls it the third ray. Basically, it's all about finding someone outside your usual circle, someone with a totally different perspective to get advice from.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So it's not just about having a mentor, it's about, like, actively seeking out diverse viewpoints that might challenge your assumptions.
Exactly.
So,
Because we all have blind spots, right?
yeah.
Our experiences shape our views, and sometimes we need that outside perspective to see what we might be missing. It's like adding a whole new dimension to how you make decisions.
So, like, finding that third ray, that outside perspective, that's huge.
It can be a game changer.
For sure. But then he kind of shifts gears into something that, honestly, you see in a lot of self-help stuff, the whole power of self-belief thing.
Yeah, it's a classic for a reason.
Right.
But what I like is how he doesn't just leave it at that. You know,
Yeah.
like he actually connects it to the law of attraction,
Mm.
that by believing in yourself, you can attract success.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's like you manifest what you believe.
Okay, I see what you mean.
And he uses this really vivid analogy comparing a child to a sapling.
Okay.
Self-belief, he says, is like the nutrients that help that sapling grow.
That's a cool way to look at it.
Right. It shows how our beliefs about ourselves can really shape our potential. It's kind of like that whole growth mindset idea,
Mm.
you know, where you believe you can always learn and improve.
Yeah, yeah.
That's crucial for achieving your goals.
Totally. But then he flips the script and he's like, but what about underestimation? Those times when we're our own worst enemies. Like, he actually did a survey and get this, most people admitted to underestimating themselves.
It's so common, isn't it?
Right,
We're so
awesome.
quick to doubt ourselves.
Yeah.
He uses this funny image, though an ostrich with its head in the sand.
I can picture it.
It's like we're hiding our own potential because we're afraid.
Oh, that's so true. It's that whole what if I fail thing.
Exactly. So he challenges readers to ask themselves, what's one area where you might be selling yourself short?
Mm-hmm.
And what can you do to start believing in yourself a bit more?
Love that. It's like a reality check. Now, something that really resonated with me was his whole take on positivity.
Yeah.
But, like, he's careful not to fall into that trap of toxic positivity. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. It's not about pretending everything's perfect. He uses that classic metaphor, the glass half full or half empty.
Yes.
It makes you think about your own outlook.
Mm,
Are you naturally drawn to the positive or the negative?
that's a good question.
And how does that affect how you experience things?
Right, right. And, he even brings up Dr. Masaru Emoto's water experiment. Now, I know the science behind that is kind of debated,
Sure.
but the whole idea that positive words can change water crystals, that's pretty wild.
It is interesting, right? Now, I'm not saying we all need to start talking to our water bottles,
Yeah.
but it does kind of highlight how our thoughts, our beliefs,
Yeah.
they can have a real impact.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like the placebo effect. When you believe something will work, it's more likely to work.
So it's really about mindset. Like, we might not always be able to change our circumstances,
I-
but we can choose how we react to them. And choosing optimism without being delusional can make a huge difference.
Absolutely. And then he talks about, moving beyond those knee-jerk reactions and choosing more thoughtful responses,
Yeah.
especially when things get tough.
It's so easy to just fly off the handle when things go wrong.
Totally.
He has this great example. Imagine you, spill soup on someone.
Okay.
Do you freak out, get angry, or do you take a breath, apologize calmly?
It's about that pause, right? That
Yeah.
moment of choice.
Exactly. And he focuses on three main areas where this matters: dealing with pressure, criticism, and mistakes. Those moments when, our emotions can get the better of us.
Big time. And it all comes back to emotional intelligence. Learning to control your emotions is so key for making good choices.
No,
He's basically saying, look, challenges are going to happen, but you have the power to choose how you respond.
right.
It's about recognizing those patterns in yourself.
Yeah.
When are you most reactive?
Yeah.
And how can you respond with more, intention, self-control?
Yeah. It's like that saying, don't react, respond.
Yeah.
But he gives you the tools to actually do it. Now, something that stood out to me, maybe because I'm trying to be better with money, is his thing about financial literacy.
It's so important.
Right. And he's like, this is important even for teenagers.
And it's not something they always teach you in school. He actually starts by talking about the cost of education in India compared to, the average income there.
Yeah.
It's eye-opening.
Wow.
But it's relevant no matter where you live or what your situation is, really.
Yeah, for sure. And I like how he breaks it all down, tracking expenses, making a budget, saying no to impulse purchases.
It's the basics.
Yeah, the basics. Just like managing your money responsibly.
Right. It's not about getting rich quick or anything.
Yeah.
He talks about the 50-30-20 budget rules. You heard of that?
Yeah.
That's a good one. And then, of course, compound interest.
Which can be intimidating.
For sure.
Yeah.
But he explains it in a way that actually makes sense.
Yeah.
He uses those relatable examples like that wheat and chessboard problem to show how small, consistent investments can really add up.
It's like slow and steady.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Playing the long game. And then he even gets into investing a bit more, like suggesting SIPs.
SIPs?
Yeah. Systematic investment plans, good for beginners. He even touches on cryptocurrency.
Had to, right.
It's everywhere, especially for young people. But he's very balanced. He talks about the risks, too.
It's smart.
Do your research. Don't just jump in because it's hyped up.
Exactly. Be informed. Make smart decisions. Now, before we move on, I got to ask about time management. Because who couldn't use a little more time in their day?
Right. We all wish we had more.
Seriously. And he starts with this, breakdown of how we actually spend our time throughout our lives.
Oh, yeah. That was eye-opening.
It makes you realize, whoa, our time is actually limited.
It really is.
It really makes you think about those minutes that slip away,
Oh, totally. And it's
Yeah.
not even just the big stuff like work or sleep. It's the little things, like scrolling on your phone or binge-watching shows. It's all about being intentional. What actually matters to you? What are your goals? And how can you make time for those things?
He talks about setting boundaries, too.
Right.
Especially with technology, which is so hard.
It's so easy to get sucked in. But we have to be in control, right?
Absolutely. So, okay, how do we actually do that? Does he give us any, practical tips?
He does. He talks about journaling your time, actually writing down how you're spending it, which I've tried that. It's eye-opening.
Right. Where's it all going?
Exactly. And then there's stuff like the Pomodoro technique for focus. Have you heard of that?
Yeah. I've tried that, too.
That can be really helpful. And then the Eisenhower matrix.
Okay, remind me about that one.
So you basically categorize tasks by urgency and importance.
Okay, yeah.
It helps you prioritize.
So finding what works for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because, and he acknowledges this, it's a work in progress. We're going to have those unproductive days. It happens.
Oh, for sure. Okay, before we wrap up, I got to ask about this chapter, Innovate, Implement, Inspire. It's he's taking all this perspective, self-belief, time management, and he's like, here's how you create something amazing.
I love that chapter. He really wants to, empower young people to break free from the mold. That whole rat race mentality, he's not about that.
I feel like so many people get stuck in that.
It's easy to,
Yeah.
But he's all about forging your own path. He compares it to that Robert Frost poem, The Road Not Taken.
Oh, I love that poem.
It's about having the courage to be different.
Yes. Okay, so he's got all these big ideas. How does he make them, like, real?
Well, he brings in his friend, Aryan Sharma, who, get this, already a successful entrepreneur.
Mm.
At 16,
No way. 16.
yeah, co-founded multiple startups.
What? That's amazing. Okay, what's his secret?
Well, he's very honest about the hard work involved. Like, it's not easy.
Right.
But he says, play to your strengths. And as a young person, what are those strengths?
Okay, yeah, good
He
question.
talks about esports, crypto, social media, things young people often just get, you know?
That makes sense.
Like, you don't have to be an expert in everything, but use your unique perspective to your advantage.
So you've got the idea, you're using your strengths. What's next?
The nitty-gritty. Planning, setting goals, building a team, and of course that financial responsibility we were talking about.
Right.
Laying the groundwork.
Love it. And he actually talks about resources, too. Things that are out there, especially for young entrepreneurs.
Like government programs, funding platforms, mentorship. He wants to show them, like, you're not alone in this.
It's so key, having that support. But even with support, there's always setbacks. How does he deal with that?
He doesn't sugarcoat it. He talks about persistence, resilience. You know that Thomas Edison quote, "I didn't fail 1,000 times. The light bulb was an invention with 1,000 steps."
Oh, I love that.
It's about how you handle those setbacks.
So true.
And that leads to the final stage, Inspire. It's about making a difference, not just like personal success.
Right. It's about more than that.
And he brings back his friend, Arian. This guy's already so successful, but he's still driven to learn, to grow, to make a positive impact. It's really inspiring.
It really is. And that's something we can all take away from this, right?
Absolutely. Passion, dedication, never stop learning.
Couldn't agree more. So, we've reached the end of our deep dive into growing beyond the syllabus. And honestly, I'm blown away. Who knew a teenager had all this wisdom to share?
Right. It just goes to show you, you can find valuable lessons in the most unexpected places.
And for everyone listening, here's something to think about. What's one small action you can take today, inspired by this conversation, to live a more intentional life?
Maybe it's finally reaching out to that third ray.
Or maybe it's just believing in yourself a little bit more. The possibilities are out there.